Mike Golf, Roger, you make the right turn there on Alpha Cross, runway 14, then Foxtrot to the ramp.
Alright, right turn, cross 14, Foxtrot to the ramp, 1 Mike Golf.
1 Mike Golf, what's the full call sign, sir?
It's November 661 Mike Golf.
661 Mike Golf, thanks. Passing this on from the approach control, a possible pilot deviation, Class B violation. I've got a phone number for you to call when you get the signature.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Mojo Group. Mike here. The FAA has made a decision on my case, and I'll let you know what the decision is. But if you're new to the channel, again, my name is Mike. I appreciate you tuning in. Here's the backstory of what's happened. About 2 months ago, I had a cross-country flight from Atlanta, Georgia to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This is a flight that I've taken plenty of times. During that flight, I had what's called a pilot deviation because I entered into a Class Bravo airspace, which is a no-no.
I was using flight following. I'm still with flight following, but for whatever reason, they lost me. So because I'm flying through a Class Bravo, I had to climb over 10,000 feet so I don't break that airspace.
Maybe 4,000 feet downwind.
And I should be descending shortly, in another 10 minutes or so.
If you're not familiar with airspaces and flying, please just search on Mojo Group. You probably find a couple of videos, or particularly this video that I did the last episode where I talked a little bit about airspaces. But to brief that, for a Class Bravo, whenever you're flying, you need permission to be able to enter or fly in a Class Bravo for safety reasons. So on this flight, I generally would get a transition through a Class Bravo, which is always in my path to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And to be more particular, this was the Charlotte Class Bravo. Upon getting to the shelf of that Bravo, I was able to climb up. During this time also, I'm talking to air traffic control, as I always do, because I use flight following. And unfortunately, I could hear them, but they could not hear me. But anyway, I caught myself and I quickly climbed up over that Class Bravo, and I thought I dodged a bullet. But by the time I touched down, this happened.
1 Mike Golf, where are you going to park, sir?
The signature 1 Mike Golf.
1 Mike Golf, Roger, you make the right turn there on Alpha Cross, runway 14, then Foxtrot to the ramp.
Alright, right turn, cross 14, Foxtrot to the ramp, 1 Mike Golf.
1 Mike Golf, what's the full call sign, sir?
It's November 661 Mike Golf.
661 Mike Golf, thanks. Passing this on from the approach control, a possible pilot deviation, Class B violation. I've got a phone number for you to call when you get the signature.
I was basically told that I needed to call a number because I was involved in a pilot deviation with Charlotte Class Bravo. And so this is what happened next, where I left off in the last story. Once I got off the airplane, I went ahead, called the phone number that they gave me, and generally speaking, this is what will happen if you are ever to find yourself in the same position. You would have to fill out a NASA report and or call a number. And in my case, it was the number to the controlling agent, the approach for Charlotte. And when I called the number, they already knew who I was. And that's the crazy thing. When you call, because everything is being recorded, by the way, your radio communication is recorded. And so when I called, I let them know, like, hey, this is my name, and I gave them the tail number of my airplane, November 661 Mike Golf. I just flew over your airspace, blah, blah, blah. Basically just explained myself. And then more so, I got an opportunity to explain exactly what happened from my point of view in the cockpit, which was I was calling in to air traffic control, and unfortunately they could not hear me.
Barge, good morning, November 661 Mike Golf. It's Raj 661 Mike Golf, like to request a flight following to Kilo Indian, November Tango.
So they filled out this paperwork for me, and again, if you ever find yourself in the same position, you generally have to fill out a report, and they get your name, license number, phone number, all that good stuff. And what happens is once a report is filed, then they send it over to the FAA agent, who is going to then investigate and handle your case. So this is the timeline. I went from flying over and calling that number, filing a report, and then it took another month or close to a month that I actually got a phone call from the FAA. The gentleman introduced himself and said, okay, I have your case. Tell me what happened. And I basically retold the story. This is what happened. This is where I take responsibility or accountability for my actions. Perhaps something I could have done better. But what I really reiterated during that phone conversation was the fact that, one, I had flown this trip many, many times, and 100% of the time, I have flight following, and I usually would get transitioned through the class Bravo. Unfortunately, that did not happen this time due to radio comms being lost. So the follow-up was the FAA agent then sent me an email, sent me a form, and then also sent me a list of questions, which I don't want to assume that this is going to be the general process, but then again, likely it would be. And so the question is just to jot down and answer, precisely what happened, to get a little bit of what occurred during that event, to get a little bit of you as a pilot, and also you send in a copy of your most recent endorsement for your logbook, which is what I was asked to do. And then in the document that was emailed to me, it also gives you your legal right. Because again, you don't want to treat this as, something as breaking the law, but FAA is a federal agent, right? It's like, how you have your police officers or whatever, but think of FAA as a federal agent. And so they let you know what your rights are, and you can voluntarily cooperate with the investigation, or you can seek counseling or legal counseling. But in my opinion, if you don't feel like you've done something wrong or just off the wall, there's no reason why you shouldn't cooperate with the investigation, especially if you have a record of the event that occurred and you don't feel like you're going to go to jail or something. I certainly didn't feel that way. And fortunately for me, I have a network of other pilots who I spoke to before, during, and after this whole process. And they let me know, yeah, this happens. It's actually more common than you think. And this is generally the process and what to expect. So using that information, I answered all the questions. And I remember one of the questions was, if you had a do-over, what would you do differently when it comes to your communication? Meaning, what is the actual right step when you're flying around or close to a Bravo? Who do you contact? If you don't have the right, or you say your equipment completely failed, or you have your paper map or sectional right there, what number do you actually call to be able to get in touch with the controlling agent or the approach for that airspace? And so those are things that, for me, I had to relearn. Because again, I'm so used to my modern gadgets in the airplane. Avionics generally do everything for me. If I need to find any particular frequency, I just type it in and boom, it's right there. It was important for me to relearn that step, and I answered that question. Well, if I had a do-over, this would have been the right step, meaning I should have called XYZ, but more particularly in my case, where I lost radio comms completely, or they lost me, I should have taken the extra step to actually call that controlling agent's number or frequency. And I didn't do that. But I answered the question and then I sent that away. It would take another couple of weeks before I hear back from the FAA. As a matter of fact, it was just last week where I got a phone call just as I'm driving, and same FAA agent calls and he says, well, I just wanted to let you know that I've investigated and now closed your case. So woo woo. I got a slap on the wrist. Nothing really. They told me they investigated and the case is closed. But he did leave me off with more of an education, which I think is the umbrella for this entire process. It's just to reiterate some of the safety aspects of flying and knowing what to do, even when you fly a fancy airplane. As I said before, it's so easy to get more dependent on your nice tools in the airplane that you may be passive about some of the basic stuff when it comes to flying cross country. So I had to do some relearning, and that was that. The case is closed, ladies and gentlemen. I am okay. My license is okay, But I'm making this video because I read some of the comments, and some of you are like, why would you even tell on yourself, or why would you put yourself in the hot seat? As I've done many times on this channel, I want to educate and I want to humanize this entire process. That's key for me, because I feel like when it comes to flying, it's almost seen as this thing over there, right? It is an extraordinary skill to have. It is an extraordinary thing to do. But the truth of the matter is, we're not robots. Human beings fly airplanes. Even the FAA, those are human beings too. And that's the other thing I want to reiterate, that when you find yourself in this situation, understand that the governing agent, FAA, is not looking at you as a robot. You're expected to make mistakes. And when you make an honest mistake, it's okay to take accountability for it, learn your lesson, make an educative process, and learn to do better. I can almost guarantee you that most pilots, if not all, will likely break some rule at some point in their flying career. And when you do, make sure that you stay ahead of it. An extra nugget I wanted to leave in this video is this. If or when you find yourself making the same mistake as I did, one good thing to do is to go ahead and take some FAA wing courses. These are free. They're online for free. Matter of fact, a pilot friend suggested this. Shout out to Dave. He had a similar situation years ago, and before an FAA person reached out to him, he actually went ahead and took some wing courses. Everything pertaining to Class Bravo deviation. By the time the FAA agent reached out and he submitted his report, he let them know, like, hey, I've taken all of these courses, and they were so impressed by that it actually helped this case during the investigation. So these are some of the things that you can do to help your case. And also, whether you're a first-time offender or repeat offender, what you can do as a member of AOPA, again, this is if you're a member of AOPA, you have a legal counsel department that you can easily call or get in contact with to help you out and advise you on some of the things to look out for or to expect with this process. And this goes for anything that you may have done pertaining to breaking a rule with your flying. More particularly, any FAA rule. If you're a member of the AOPA platform, make sure you reach out. It's part of your membership. Get some nice counseling and make sure you cover all your bases. And again, to circle back on my experience, the only counseling I needed was just being transparent, telling the truth, and taking ownership for what I did wrong during that flight. And at the end of the day, the case has been closed. And that makes me a happy man. But again, I want to share this with the public just so you know, because you don't know what you don't know. And if this has happened to you before, I'm actually interested to find out how your process went. And if you have any questions pertaining to this, leave in the comment below. All right, thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up. If this is your first time, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and also consider supporting the channel as well and becoming a member. Again, my name is Mike, and I will catch you on the next video. Peace.